Hey, how we doing?
Good, good. I mean, not really doing much, but yeah.
I'm about to say another day of nothing to do.
Uh, hold on a
Another
sec.
day lockout rally. Um, another day of runners running. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for rubbing that in.
Yeah.
All right, hold on a sec here. I'm just checking mic and everything is coming through properly. Seems like it is.
Yeah, I see someone in the chat is asking for the Discord link, I think.
I thought it was in the description, but already saying it's not working. I'll try and find that while we take a look at the charts here. So obviously, guys, it's been a pretty historic rally. Yeah, Roadfly lockout day 4. I'm with you on that one too. Um, Still just waiting, and this is, I got the daily chart up here on the left as opposed to the 4 hour, and you can just see the meteoric rise there in the last, well, that's 9-10 days or something. 12% gain, pretty impressive. But for failed breakdown traders, obviously that leaves us with not a lot to do if you miss the initial entry. So maybe you can, Mike, can you talk through a little of the trade plan? I'm going to go and see if I can find that link for the Discord.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the trade plan. There isn't really anything here
Hurry up and wait.
for quite a bit. Yeah. So 70-20 is the first one down in the newsletter, which is 50 points lower. Adam also didn't tweet out any sort of watch for traps at any of these higher levels either. So you also don't really have anything new in terms of structure to play that's that great. Obviously, now context, we're also at now all-time highs, so that also adds to even the poor context. It is quite amazing that we're kind of back here at all-time highs, not gonna lie. Feels like just weeks ago we were trading in the low six thousands. But with the context being now we're back at all-time highs, there isn't any fantastic structure. Usually, anyways, after a rally this large, the first structure down isn't going to be that great to begin with. 70-19 to me still remains the kind of first sort of even idea to even really probably think about opening your platform, to be honest. And
Yeah, and
then
that's a
below there,
good ways down there, and that's 50 points below, which on a
yeah,
normal day would be considered a pretty dramatic sell.
exactly. And to be honest, where we're at right now is like you're not even gonna need to open your platform until we don't get there. Obviously, if we get there, can start watching that. But again, that's honestly not even like a crazy. That's just a nice little mini midday kind of dip below we had yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then below there we have 69.92, which was the low from 6 a.m. Yesterday, and then 69.83 below there. So yeah, I mean we need a 50-point sell to even really begin talking about a plan, to be honest. So unfortunately, we'll need that. I don't know if we'll get that or not. It's going to require ES to give us quite a big of a sell here,
Mm-hmm.
which it just hasn't been able to do. I mean, it's just the price has just been so strong that every day it's just continued to rally and grind harder, even farther than we think. So. Yeah, one of those rare weeks for me, to be honest, where I've been joking about this for the past few weeks. Adam mentioned the same thing on his tweet on Monday, which is just doing a max size long Sunday night and then just taking the week off. And that's kind of been how my week has been so far. And I've been saying to do it for quite some time, and I'm finally almost getting forced to be in that position where it looks like I might just have be one and done this week, unless something comes up today. Because then tomorrow we get into profit protection mode on Fridays for me, and at that point, I'm not gonna risk my entire weeks of capital. I'm gonna have to preserve quite a bit of that. So we'll see. We'll see. 70/20 is the first thing down. If we get it, we'll all have to we'll kind of walk through that process in the Discord. I'll kind of give some commentary on what I'm looking at, but besides that, not much to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would throw out some lower lower probability setups there, desperation trades, you might consider them. But there's a tiny little shelf at 70.56, flag support per Adam's tweet, and that kind of shelf we set in late day yesterday afternoon. Obviously, SPX is looking to hold above 7,000 here and kind of hold the new all time highs. So yeah, but just bear in mind, contact is about as bad as it gets. So that's, yeah. If I did trade that personally, it would be the smallest size that I ever trade. It would, it's barely a setup, but there is something small there. If ES isn't going to dip, but it's been such a huge run, such a bender that ES is going to need to work this one off over several days. Yeah, like you mentioned, 92 is kind of the first one of serious interest. I did want to mention one of the questions in the Discord. Chap's name Waz or Whack or something, or anyway, talking about how kind of the newsletter changes from day to day slightly, even though sort of the levels and the structure remain the same. And I've got today's news plan on here. But for example, yesterday down at these levels at 83 and 92. So today, we were kind of looking for 83 to hold and recover 92. I think yesterday it was maybe worded slightly different. It was looking for a trade of 83 or something to that effect. And same lower down on some of these levels. Kind of curious and interesting how the newsletter changes slightly from day to day. Do you have any special insight on that?
So the specific example he brought up, which is by this actually this is a good question. He brought up the example of yesterday's newsletter, or sorry, 2 days ago. Basically, the newsletter had identified 69.38 as a significant low after we back tested 69.29, and then yesterday's newsletter identified that 69.29 basically low as the recovery of that low and not basically needing to wait for 69.38 anymore. And so that's why he was kind of curious as to why, did that change? Now, it's very similar to what happened Sunday night, if you guys recall, where we basically had the 67.80 failed breakdown mentioned in the newsletter, but not the 93 shelf above it. But again, like that shelf is still there, right? Like the key thing to note is, sometimes because Adam mentioned that 93 shelf the newsletter prior, but just didn't mention it the newsletter after. So the biggest thing to note is like just because he may not mention another shelf the day after, that shelf still exists. That significant low still exists. It's not like it just kind of vanished per se into thin air. It still exists. And you kind of at that point it's a little bit more of a price action read. Kind of like how Adam did Sunday night, where we kind of had rejected 93, back tested it, and that kind of caused him to want to now wait for 93 to clear. Versus sometimes he may, if there's enough room to trim in between levels, he may just go ahead and trim. So that's kind of my fundamental rule is you kind of need to analyze like, hey, between these two, lows here, and they're relatively close together, do I can I get a trim here in between? And if you can, then you feel free to take it. It's more than valid. But if you feel like, hey, I would rather be a little safer. I don't know if I'll be able to get a trim. It's not, the greatest distance in between, then you can wait for both lows to clear and take the higher entry. So that has a little bit to do with personal preference, to be honest. I know, aggressive traders, for example, are going to obviously always want to try to get in just when that first low clears. Versus sometimes, you'll see Adam not care, right? He took the entry on Sunday night at 97, right? Meanwhile, like, and not to call Tim out, but like, Tim was eyeing the level and he thought 87 was a bit chasey. You know what I mean? Because it's just a little bit of a different style with the way Adam views it versus sometimes we may view it. So we may even think, getting 5-7 points is off the first low is a bit higher versus Adam's like, no, I don't care. I'll wait, 7-8 points even off of the second higher low. So a little bit has to do with personal choice and how you trade. Ultimately, as long as you're kind of watching the price action and you're able to identify, hey, do we have acceptance and then do we have momentum and is there enough room to trim? Then generally, you will fare well most times if you can answer those three questions before you enter.
Cool. Thanks for that, Mike. Sorry for putting you on the spot there again. Um, okay, guys. So yeah, just to reiterate, this has obviously been a monster rally, probably overdue. Maybe not a sell, but at least some chop here, maybe. So, but no predicting. Just follow the price action. If it looks like it's not moving quickly here and just kind of flagging sideways, then be very careful about engaging in this poor context up in the stratosphere. But hopefully we do get a sell at some point. With that, we'll sign off. Got the open here in 3 minutes, so we'll go and see what happens. We'll catch you all in the chat. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.